Imagine not being able to see your surroundings, not being able to see the smile of your friends or the colors of spring. Have you ever heard of macular degeneration? It is a disease where a portion of your eyesight is taken from you with each passing year. Today you will meet a man named Jim Stokes, and you will be inspired by his accomplishments. So Jim, what made you interested in becoming a child psychologist? In order for him to pursue this dream, he had to take endless classes and stay focused. College was when he started noticing the eyesight problem, and even then, he wouldn't let that discourage him.
In order for me to write a dissertation, I had to hire people to read to me, and then I had to memorize most things because I couldn't refer to my notes and things like that, and that got harder and harder.
Since college, Jim wanted to become a child psychologist because he likes learning the way people think and act. He says, kids have a lot to say and offer, and they need someone to listen to them.
My favorite thing is seeing a kid who's felt emotionally isolated or cut off or discouraged or really anxious or depressed, just to make a turn and become really connected. I just see so many kids, and I think people in general frequently feel disconnected from other people and kind of like alone, and that others don't understand them. And so I try to provide an atmosphere where kids feel safe and secure and trusting, and to me that's one of the most important things about being a child psychologist.
Since Jim is a kid, he liked to create things with wood, build models, make movies, design, fix things, build tracks, create pottery, and collect slot cars.
And that's just something that's a huge part of my life. I've always been interested in building things and creating different things. You know, when I was a kid, I used to sneak into old houses that are under construction and take wood and stuff and start building furniture out of it, just making it up as I went along. And I made a lot of awful things, I'm sure, but you know, and I loved building models, and I also liked making movies back then.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stokes Speedway for the annual running of the Sports Car Classic. It's a perfect day for a race. The track is warm and dry, but not too hot, so the cars should have excellent grip. Today you'll be watching one of racing's greatest rivalries between Randy Stormblower and his cream Jaguar XK120, car number 17, and Wes Trueblood and his yellow Ferrari Testarossa, car number 21.
Slot cars is something I've been interested in a long time. When I was a kid, I had a little figure eight, and I used to race with my friends. And then many years later, as an adult, I saw them again, and I was like, wow, they still make those? That's cool. And so I started getting them and making tracks.
So Jim, this is quite an amazing track. How long did it take you to build this?
It took about 2.5 years.
Wow. So what kind of made you feel like to do this kind of theme?
Well, this is the third track that I've built. This is by far the biggest and most detailed. So I've had some practice, and I knew I wanted some long straightaways, but lots of curvy things. And since we live in Colorado, I wanted to be kind of Colorado-ish.
So what do you do over here?
Well, this is the work area, and I've got it set up really for my son and I, or if there was two people, there's plenty of space for us to work. And this has all our miniaturized tools and stuff, and so we can work on the cars, so that tune them to make them go faster and stuff like that.
That's cool. Yeah. So as you mentioned earlier, you said you like having control and you focus a lot on detail, but you also said that you had some problems with your eyesight. So how did tell us a little bit about your disease and how that affects you and not being able to do everything you love to the extent that you love.
Let's see. I'm diabetic, and I was diagnosed when I was a kid, type 1, which is insulin dependent. And so I've had some health issues most of my life. And really, when I was younger, I kind of acted like it was nothing and everything seemed to be fine. But then, as I got older, and as I mentioned when I was in graduate school, that's when my eyesight started to be affected by that. And then it's a degenerative eye disease, so that it gets worse all the time. And now, actually, it's not that obvious, but I'm legally blind. So lots of things are challenging as a result of that.
Since Jim is such an independent person, he has adjusted to his everyday obstacles that he now faces. He has adjusted to this by wearing a headset that makes it easier for him to see small things in front of him.
It's become increasingly challenging. I have to use a lot of, like I have this headset that helps me to really super magnify things. And that helps me, but I also need a lot of contrast for things to stand out. I play around a lot with lighting to help me with that.
He gave up on multiple things in his life. He gave up on driving because he is now legally blind and has to take the bus from place to place, including work. Also, he had to cut back on his word work. Some of his passions, like skiing and tennis, he can no longer do. It
can feel like a lot. It's not like, oh, my car's in the shop, could you help me this week or something? It's like, oh, I can't drive, so can you help me for the rest of my life? You know, it's a big difference. You know, so then I go, okay, I go through this process of, do I give this up, or do I just find a totally different way of doing it? A lot of the time I can't even tell the difference between like the ground and the sky. Yeah. So it's like, ooh, am I going uphill? It's really disorienting.
Yeah, so what other things have you had to give up besides driving and skiing?
Well, skiing I haven't totally given up on, but I go back and forth, and now I ski with the Challenge Aspen program, and they starting to work on giving me audible signals, you know, like talking my way through it. Skiing's the biggest thing. I used to be a big tennis player. I absolutely had to give that up because there was just no way that I could figure out where the ball is.
He has his family and a hobby helper to help him with his interest.
Yeah, so that's huge. My sons are really great. One in particular is interested in a lot of the same things in terms of building things, and he's been a huge help to me.
That's awesome that you have someone like that to help you.
Yeah, so that's great.
Yeah.
And then started looking for someone who would be my like hobby helper, that could do some of the real detailed things for me, or point things out, or like measuring is really hard for me. Yeah. And so now I have somebody that comes over on Fridays and they help me do that stuff. And so at first it's just like, I want to be able to do this myself.
Yeah,
but
because you're an independent person. So.
Right. So, so now I sort of have to give up a little bit in order to be able to do more. And it's, you know, it's a process.
Yeah,
but,
it's difficult, but then the reward is big, so.
Absolutely.
Who else do you have help you except for your sons and the hobby helper on Fridays?
Yeah. So I grew up in a big family. I had 6 siblings. There were 7 of us, and my parents. And I felt very different and disconnected. But at the same time, my family was very much around me and trying to be supportive. But I think for them, it was not because they didn't care. I think that they very much did. And since then, as I got older, I could talk to them, and then we talk all about it, and it's really great. So I feel like I've had a really supportive family. As it turned out, I guess I felt sort of alone with my disease.
Kind of like how you mentioned when you were talking about your child psychology, how you like help children that kind of felt isolated, and so like you can kind of tie that into how you felt as a child. So maybe that's what like triggered the interest.
I think you're right on with that. I think it makes a lot of sense that I just want to help kids feel like they could talk about anything.
Because like once when you were a child, you didn't feel like that.
Right. Like I felt like I wasn't supposed to talk about it, or I wasn't supposed to say, this is freaking me out. Instead, I just sort of was just quiet about it and didn't say anything. And so I think that's so true, that it sort of made a direct connection of what I chose as a career.
So how about your current family?
So I'm married and have been for 22 years.
Wow.
And actually, I'm proud of my wife this morning. She just did a uphill climb race, and she came like in second in her
Wow, that's awesome.
age
That's
class.
great.
Yeah, so that's great. And she's like a huge animal person. We live on a ranch here, and
Yeah.
we have horses and goats and a miniature donkey and dogs, and we're about to get some piglets, so I'm excited about that. And she is a school counselor and a kindergarten teaching assistant as well. So she works a lot with kids and loves.
So you guys both have that common child loving thing.
Right. We're big kid people.
That's good.
And then I have two sons. One is 19. He's a sophomore in college out in California. And my younger son, he has a lot of the same interests as I do, so we spend a ton of time. He's a 16 and he's a sophomore in high school. And so he really likes building things and creating, and has been super helpful with all that and really involved. And I really like creating things with him.
So not only do you have this racetrack, but you also have this train track. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is really the beginning of my next project, is, because I love doing all the detailed stuff. I want to do a train.
What
So,
kind of theme are you thinking about doing? Where are you going to do the rest of this?
oh, well, I built another room on the other side of this wall, so that this is just like a teaser, so that you come and you say, oh, look at that train, and then you see, and it goes through these tunnels, and actually it'll go into a whole nother room where there's a whole another world going on.
That's cool. And how long do you think it'll take you to do that?
Oh, it's going to take years, but I don't care.
Do you mind if we come back and visit you while you're doing it?
That'd be great. Sure, I'd happy to do that.
Okay, well, thank you so much for letting us interview you today, and we'll see you soon again.
All right, thanks very much.
Yeah.